Hi, ladies and gentlemen, witches and wizards, everybody of all ages. Thank you for watching Nom Watch Review. So today, it's part of the Nom Talk network. On this show, we review our latest film drop or throwback, celebrating a milestone while eating and drinking our favorite movie snacks and drinks. I'm your host, Alejandro Cowie, and today I'm shamelessly having some Del Taco with some Dr. Pepper, some cheeseburgers and fries. I'm really excited to eat. Super excited to talk about this film, Jung-Hee, today. And I also want to actually introduce our guests here today. So first, today, Mikey, introduce yourself, my friend, and what are you having with us today?
Hey, I'm Mikey Flores. I am having a cold chicken tender from Raising Cane's, and I'm sweetened iced tea because
Heck yeah. Excellent.
yeah,
Excellent.
it's
Dude,
nice to
Raising
healthy.
Cane's I had in the South, like when I used to live in Alabama previously, and
Hmm.
their tenders, whether they're cold or warm, are delicious.
Yeah, it's
Derrick,
pretty
my
good.
friend, introduce yourself and what are you having today?
Hey guys, glad to be back. Today I am munching on some baked Mediterranean, I think sweet potato chips. It's just the last that I had in the bag. And then sugar-free triple shot energy because I have just been sitting in front of a screen watching movies for
Ooh.
way too much. So I need as much. This is like my third energy drink I've had in one day. So yeah, good
Fuel
times.
watching fire. It's
Yeah,
great. I love
it
it.
is. It
Yeah.
is. I should
Fantastic.
probably be drinking water, honestly, but
I agree with you as I chug on my 32 ounces of Dr.
yeah.
Pepper. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I miss
I need to
sugar.
hydrate so we don't dehydrate. Now, today we are talking about Jung-Hee. I just want to go ahead and touch base and get a little reiteration where we're at in regards to our opinion of the film already. I'm going to actually change the pace a little bit and go into giving our popcorn bucket ratings. Get us a little preemptively on this. Mikey, my friend, what did you rate this out of 5 popcorn buckets?
I rated it a 3.
3? Excellent. Right
Yes.
on, right on. Derrick, my friend, what did you rate it as 5 popcorn buckets?
I went with a 3 as well. I struggled between like a 2.5 and a 3, but I think there are some good things in this movie that kind of bump it up. I I was saying off air, I was like, oh, let me give it like a 2.75, and she was like, I don't have that. Stop adding random popcorn buckets. So
275.99999.
yeah, right.
Right on, right on. I'm very similar to you guys here. I am approaching this with a 3 out of 5 as well. I'm a huge sci-fi buff and just in general love stories, but I definitely will go a little bit more into depth with our ratings and how we reason why we rated these in general. But I actually kind of want to start off with the initial vibe of the film. Here we are in the distant future. Let's go ahead and say unknown future in time and place. We have climate change that's really pretty much fucked up the planet, guys. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, climate change. So that is really messed up the planet. We actually have planet Earth being targeted in a specific point of in this film of Jung-Hee. They go off to different livable space colonies in space in general. I believe altogether it says they have 28 space colonies. And what ended up happening is I think it's number 11, number 18, number 8, correct me if I'm wrong, create a rebellion called the Adrian Republic and literally start attacking life forms in space that are associated with the human race, the planet Earth itself, and is literally making AI technologies and just creating havoc, whooping tail and doing everything. So the Allied forces come up at this point, time being, and try to fight with their own AI. Then they come up with in the midst with a particular soldier, which we'll mention in general in a little bit. And the soldier creates such a positive position for this alliance. They want to go ahead and take this technology and clone the soldier's brain and actually transform it into other AIs to go ahead and defeat this horrible civil war they're having at the moment. So here we are understanding that this world right now is filled with AI, filled with brain cloning technology, and we see they have a crazy, crazy effed up situation with some Civil War concepts going to space. That being said, Derrick, I want to start with you. Here we are in, I will say, a good I'm going to throw it out there 30 minutes introduction of the film. We know that there's an intense battle. We get introduced to the main character of the stuff, which we find out this main character happens to be the daughter of the Adrian Republic's golden girl, golden soldier out there, and they're trying to go ahead and replicate her brain. And it seems to be able to go ahead and be performing these tests or these virtual reality concepts. Now, my friend, I have to ask you, 30 minutes. I know I said a lot. We know we see a lot going on right now. What is your vibe of the film? What's going on? How are you taking it right now? Is this too much information for you? Is this, I mean, what is your opinion of Jung-Hee at this point?
Yeah, so this is one of those movies that starts really, really strong, and then just almost immediately transitions into something completely different, without any real warning. I mean, I love little backstories like that. I don't. I guess my criticism of sci-fi, and I actually saw somebody tweet this out today, but my criticism of sci-fi in general is that it's always the post-apocalyptic world, and we never actually get to see what happens in there. And that's not a knock on this film; it's just a personal gripe for me. But the exposition is good. I mean, it gives you a ton of information. Starts off with just an incredible action sequence, and then as soon as it stops and you realize it's an AI program, I mean that whole intro to this film is really, really good. Like it starts super strong, and then a whole different movie takes place, like almost immediately, and it's jarring. And I don't think the movie ever recovers all the way through, because then it's constantly fighting itself with what it introed and then what it actually wants to be. So it's trying to be this overarching sci-fi, Civil War, AI, thematic thing that we're all very used to in sci-fi fantasy, right? But it also wants to be a melodramatic story about family and a mother-daughter relationship. And both of those things are fine. Like I don't have any issue with those two things existing in the same world or in the same film. But I feel like, especially when you talk about those first 30 minutes and kind of that 5 minutes that happens after, you start to, that disconnect is pretty large. And I don't think it ever closes the gap. I see. It stays as this gigantic chasm between these two movies, and it can't seem to merge them the way that I think it wants to. So a strong start, but it falls off pretty quick.
Now, question on that. So on the same vibe we have in here, because like I think you hit the nail on the head. In my opinion, in regards to making a transition, I feel it's like an epic, prologue coming in. It feels this build up, and you're like, oh my god, this wicked battle's taking place. You have the hero Golden Girl at the time being doing these ridiculous, like awesome Matrix moves. I mean, some of these things I was like impressed with. Mikey, let's piggyback off here. We're 30 minutes coming into this concept here. Derrick mentions that the initial vibe that he's getting from the film is, massively great. And then we come up to this area and it seems to actually slightly down out. Now, the question is this: is your opinion the same? Why? And how is your general opinion of this 30 minutes of the film? Is this an epic prologue coming in? Is there some hiccups here, as Derrick is pointing out? Right. What is your opinion, my friend?
I'm pretty much on the same page with him as on this one. I love the way it started out. I thought it was great. I think maybe it was because I saw the trailer for it and it looked like it was just going to be an all-out action sci-fi movie that I wasn't expecting this. I'm glad I wasn't the only one that was surprised by the sudden turn into a different movie, basically. But yeah, it was pretty surprising. The exposition was great. I mean, you understand the world. You understand how it's set up. You understand the relationships that are going on, the two main relationships. You get that. And then you think that it's going to be a balanced movie between balancing the action and the drama and everything like that, but it goes completely into another direction, and I'm like, so when's the action going to start up again? I mean, I was promised one movie and I got a different movie completely here. I don't know, but I'm completely on board with you guys on that. It was a bit jarring. I do understand that, yes, it was a very good drama about mother-daughter relationship, about grieving, about loss, stuff like that. But where's my action? I wanted some action.
Yeah.
No, I get that. I see what you're talking about. But it's interesting because in those 30 minutes we have this area, and it does seem like it sets up this perfect area. It seems like you have a perfect coming up, somebody coming in volleyball, nice setup, and you just see these. I mean, initially. Let's talk about the dog robot that she's initially duking it out with. I mean, that is slick looking. I mean, in regards to CGI, I was really impressed. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Obviously, it's CGI, but it seems pretty seamless at the time being. But as both you said, to me, I was getting built. I was getting hyped. I was like, oh my God, she's whooping ass. Look at her doing all these things. Yeah. And then, of course, you get that pause And then here's my issue. To capitalize on your guys' point here, you would think that slight pause would go back into it. You're like, okay, good. They're going to tell us how they're going to set up weapons, get situated on her as an individual, but it literally does a 180. It goes from battle to biography. And then you're like, ooh, wait, what's going on? And the funny thing is we don't know it's going to biography yet. We're literally talking about it as it's going into it. And we're going to talk about, I believe that the company that they're working for is called Chronoid. I thought it was like a Chronos thing at first, like the god of time, but evidently it's Kronoid. But essentially it's the company that, which I'm going to throw a little depressing fact knowledge here. And I'm sure for anybody that actually lives in Korea could relate. There's more considering the fact that the government and the military connection and so forth, and how your relation to be a citizen and so forth to, and what your duty is to a country. But hypothetically speaking, it's kind of similar in regards to the military here. You know, if you're in the military here, you get a GI Bill, you get a certain amount of things that you just get basic bottoms for fighting for your country. Here you go. This is what, help you out. Just deal with it. You're getting some stuff. We start to see in this world of capitalism, in this world of government owned, in this world of, obviously, it comes into just being, you got Big Brother's the only person there. That being said, our main character is stuck with a thing called the C package, which is a cloning of your brain, but the brain is available to the government and they can clone you and make ultimate clones of everywhere. It's a little dreary because, you do see the concept of, figuring out how and why now they're doing this test, why they're trying to clone this individual. And given that she is the golden soldier, yet you still get the crappy end of the stick. We are introduced to the psychotic boss. That's not the chairman himself, but is a individual with a little past behind him. Seems to be ridiculously kind, ridiculously professional. But we notice that everybody around him is acting really, really nervous or scared in general. Mikey, I want to start off with you right here, my friend. We are talking, I want to make sure I bring his character up correctly here.
It's Sang, right? Sang-Jun or something like that?
Yeah, thank you. Sang-Jun, exactly, perfect. Yeah. So he acts as the current lead in charge, just underneath the chairman here. Mikey, I have to ask you, buddy, what's your vibe of him and the organization that the Golden Soldier's working for at the moment?
Over the top, way over the top. I'm like, what? So for one, okay, here I get it. He's kind of playing off of like the eccentric billionaire kind of like company. I guess kind of like an Elon Musk type character, right? Mm-hmm. But this character was way over the top. He felt like it didn't belong in the movie. Mm-hmm. It was a distraction every time he was on there. Mm-hmm. There was no nuance to the character. Like you knew right away he was going to be a dick. It. So it's not like it was just a plain flat character. Actor, I don't want to like disparage the actor. I think he's a very good actor, I'm sure. But I don't think he was given much to do with play with here. He was just flat. They told him. I think maybe they told him to go over the top, and he just did it. And there was nothing to the character. When you have a villain in a movie, you kind of want to have something behind the character, some substance to it, to actually hate. You can't. It's just you don't hate him because of the story or anything like that. You just hate him because he's annoying. It's just like there's no point to the character. I don't know. I was very disappointed in that. I thought for a villain of this movie, it's arguably whether or not he's the main villain. Like you could say that corporation, the government, is the main villain of the movie. But he as the face of the villain of the movie, he was, I don't know, he wasn't doing it for me.
I see that. Derrick, your opinion of crazy corporation man himself, and the company.
100% agree. No notes. No, seriously, I completely agree with you, man. And it's not even just that he's over the top. Like you're right. He feels like he's from a different movie. Like he literally doesn't belong here, and he is distracted. Because he's not necessarily tied to the action that we were promised, right? He's very much tied to this story of, military and family and grief and loss and all these themes that the movie is really trying to get across. But even then, he doesn't feel a part of that at all. And it just, I completely agree. No disrespect to the actor. I'm sure he's doing the absolute best he can. I mean, I don't want to knock a performance when it's not necessarily their fault. Like, it's very
and you're not,
clear.
for the record, it doesn't even come off like you're knocking the performance at all.
Right. I think sometimes we criticize performances without, or, we criticize performances without taking into account how the character is written and where the direction is. And, so they're tied to those things. Like, actors can make a lot of their own decisions, but at the end of the day, like, they're tied to what's on the page and they're tied to what the director is trying to guide the story to be. So I don't blame the actor for his performance, but that character and what he's doing with that character does not fit here at all. Like, by the time we get to the end and he just like turns into full-on Robo Monster, I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, it's not even it's so anticlimactic, because that character is so annoying, so distracting, but then he's pivotal to the climax of the film, and you're just like, no, none of this works, guys.
It's funny you should say that too, because like, Mikey and Derrick, you guys, I can't emphasize enough, it doesn't seem like he belongs in the film. However, it's almost as if it was like he belongs in a part 2 of the same universe, because the only reason why I give him the benefit of the doubt, along with, and you guys brought this up, and I'm glad you brought this up, he's a phenomenal actor. The craziness, the concepts of him going psycho, him pulling the gun on the main character himself. I mean, all these actions, it like as if an actor was to portray something that, of that intensity, with that intensity or that passion, with that insanity, he's hitting it on the head. However, there's no need for it. There's not. And I think, in my opinion, I feel like as if the film wanted to go ahead and take the chairman, right? And say, hey, the chairman is going to be your classic concept president / boss man. This is who he is. And it almost felt like he took that character individual and made it the evil part of him and made it doing his bidding, and then him the one calming it down. But even then, even if that was the way they try to use it, it didn't seem to actually be delivered well, or, directly well. Because I agree with you guys. It just felt like he was different in general.
Yeah. And then also there's one point where like he figures something out towards the end of the movie that like it's like pivotal, like, oh, this is how the climax happens, because he figured something out about the simulation. And I'm like, he's not smart enough to figure that out.
Yes.
There's no way to figure that out.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Figure that out.
Yes.
Although the way they analyze,
he leaves the room, pauses, and comes back and finds this one little thing. Like, he has never been portrayed as a smart person. He's an uneven-tempered, trigger-haired, like, no logic, no smarts whatsoever, just goes with his gut, works on impulse, and like, all of a sudden he figures out the one thing nobody else get out of here.
Totally didn't buy that.
I slightly blame the writing for this. And the reason why I'm saying this is because given that he is AI, there is a portion over there, and this is I'm glad we're talking about this, because I think the delivery was the only at fault, because hypothetically speaking, let's say 20 minutes before this, right? We finally understand that through the situation, there has been hundreds and hundreds of failed tests, right? They're ultimately trying to replicate this test to make, you'll need the ultimate fighter, right? That being said, we have this I'm just going to call him psychotic robotic boss man at the moment. Doesn't like what's going on, right? You can tell, and there's a point where they had somebody from corporate come by. And honestly, I don't know if corporate was a human being quite yet still, because of the way she was reaction, but you could tell she was amused by him. And if you didn't know, and to me, I was still clueless, because sometimes I'm like the perfect audience member. I'm gullible as hell, and I watch a movie. I'm like, I might know the answer. I'm like, oh, I can't believe that happened. In reality, in the back of my head, I'm like, you dummy, you know what happened. So you have the situation where she makes the comment, oh, you're emotional. And so you're like, what the hell? What do you mean he's emotional? He's a human being. And then it all kind of clicked on me right then. Oh, homie's not a human being. Even then, even if you're making comments that he could be possibly AI, it did seem like if he's being overly emotional, maybe that was maybe that part of AI, a natural bit of him, was making him overlook the concept of which, for the record, I want to go ahead and catch a little bit out here because we have some comments back and forth between our actual audience members and our producer here, just actually talking about Jung-Hee, the film in general. But just to catch anybody up that's joining us right now, we are talking about Jung-Hee, a Korean sci-fi space film that was released on Netflix a couple of days ago. So we're just going a little more in depth with that at the moment, just to catch those up that are just joined us. So thank you for joining us. But also to backpedal back in the situation where we're at right now. The concept that, yeah, okay, sure, if he was a robot, sure, or obviously an AI, if he was too emotional and that was something that was adjusted in his head, that made him overlook the situation. Because we're also looking at the color concept, right? We were mentioning purple. Purple had something essence in regards to monitoring brain waves, had a reference into seeing how fast they were. We were talking about yellow because yellow is the ultimate thing that they were trying to rename because they didn't recognize yellow. So it was a new thing, which is hint, hint. We're gonna just say motherly instinct at this moment. And then you also had red, right? So even if we're talking about red, purple, and yellow, even if we're talking about he's a robot, I fully agree with you guys. It felt as if they really, 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 really made that specific turn back in the hallway. Forget everything I thought. She just dodged a bullet. Let's do it. So I do feel as the delivery on that was kind of rough.
And it's actually a pretty easy remedy, right? You don't even have to necessarily reinvent a lot of things. You honestly just give him a person in the chair that figures it out for him, and then and that's kind of the other problem too. Is like he doesn't have any allies here. Everybody is afraid of him. So he doesn't have anybody that's like a nameless analyst that is like his bootlicker, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And that's a super easy thing to do. Just write one of them being a diehard fan of the young robot chairman, and when he goes to leave the room, they call him back in. He rewatches it, and then he figures it out. But somebody gave it to him like that.
Yeah,
it's super easy. Like it's not that hard. But that's a struggle with this film, I think, across the board, is that it really does start to kind of crumble under its own ambition, where it is trying to do one too many things at a time. And like I said, I don't think that either one of the films is necessarily bad. They just don't coexist together. Like I was invested in the drama. I was invested in the mother-daughter relationship, and I think it's done very, very well. And the actors are done, they give a great performance, but it's so distracting when you start and end with these huge action set pieces that feel completely disconnected. They don't feel like they belong in this movie. They're so separate from everything that happens. Because even the war resolves itself in a calm, peaceful, dramatic,
and you're just like, dude, we have to talk about this, right, Derek? We have to talk about this right now, and I want you to start off on this, right? Okay. We're in a position right now, right? Okay, so we finally figure out that in this clusterfuck of emotional roller coaster of corporation and family issues collaborating in one, right? We finally find out that, all right, cool. Our golden soldier is no longer golden soldier. The Adrian forces decided to go ahead and find financial agreements with the rest of the Allied forces, and like, everybody's kumbaya. We're about to get, never mind that we destroyed half the planet and killed all these people. We're gonna go ahead and make this combat robot into a sex robot. So I guess now my question, and Derek, I want to reflect, and then Mike, I want to ask you, because this is driving me crazy. I do see some ironic similarities cough to the US. So I mean, we are looking at to like, hey, let's go ahead and make our presence and destroy and kill everything and be like, everybody do our thing, and then, oh, by the way, we can't, so let's just be friends and just make sure we corporately have every store and everything we have on your side, so we're all making money. That being said, the reflections we're looking at in the film right now, Derek, is it safe to say that we can see some relatable comparisons, when it comes to at this point where we're at?
I mean, I don't think
we'd ever more consumerism.
I don't think we'd ever resolve anything peacefully, but yeah. I mean, look, there's obviously commentaries on capitalism and consumerism, and the use of human and AI as commodities instead of actual technological advancements, and I think we see that permeated all throughout. And I don't know if it's a if it's a critique of American culture or if it's just a critique of culture in general. But I do find it to be just you either have a war or you don't. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying that like, you can't resolve your war. I mean, hell, I All Quiet on the Western Front is a war movie that is literally taking place as they're commencing peace talks, and it ends relatively unceremoniously in that way, right? But there's, again, it's just that disjointed storytelling and that script that just doesn't do that any favors, because these two end pieces, right, the things that cap it off, the top and the bottom, are so intrinsically tied to the war that is happening. So when you resolve the war in this calm, peaceful, dramatic way and you change everything about it, it's just there's no payoff to that. And to me, I feel like you would almost want it to be just reserved all the way through, right? Like, they could be working on AI technology and using this soldier, and it could be more of a commentary on just how exploitative war is, right? So we don't even need to see them try to run the simulation over and over and over again. We can just be, through the relationship of the mother and daughter, we can understand the C packages and how war has treated its people and what they try to do to commoditize, monetize war heroes and stuff like that. Like, that to me is what they're trying to do. But again, you can't separate these end caps. And so when the chairman just shows up and it's like, oh yeah, everything's cool, it's going to be a sex bot now, you're like, so the movie's over? I don't understand what we're supposed to be doing now.
Now, a question, Mikey, for you. Same question for you. So we're at this point, right? Obviously, Derrick brings some excellent points. We come in and all of a sudden they take the war away. And it seems as if there's a large chunk or motivation from the film that seems to dissipate. My question for you, Mikey, is do you feel the same here? Or also, and if you do, and could there have been a possibility change? Could they slightly adjusted something that could have changed this film in a certain direction, in your opinion, Mikey?
So I feel the same way, roughly the same way about it. I think that the fact that they took the war away was kind of like anticlimactic. Like, okay, so whatever. Okay, so it's gone now. And then they transitioned the AIs over to do different things. And it's going to be a sex bot at some point. You just know it because it always goes there at some point. But the thing is, I think they never truly, to me at least, explained why they needed to exclusively make this brain just the warrior brain. And it could have been, they could have just the whole time been like, well, there's one section of the company that's doing this, building this AI for the military purpose, but they're still also, they own the brain, they own the intellectual property basically. So they could have been doing this on the side. So the thing that could have changed was that they could have just still had that story. They could have had them developing the AI for something else alongside developing it for war, and she finds out about both, like that they're both doing both things, and it doesn't take anything away from the fact that like you're talking about what right a company has to own someone's essence. It's their mind. You're still talking about that, whether it's used for war or used for sex. It doesn't matter because you're still talking about the same thing. And the fact that like they said, well, we'll get rid of the war so that we can concentrate on this thing to make make more sense. Well, that doesn't, you don't have to. It's like, it's just bad writing. It's like, it's like you have to just be a bit more creative. Like, okay, just you think of it ahead and just like they had planned to do that originally. That's the way it was. They owned it. That's the whole point about having the C package, is that you have no say. Your family has no say. No one has any say about what they can do. They own you.
So, Mikey, just a slight pause for you guys. If you have a drink, a popular thing amongst here in when we actually Nom Talk Network, people cash in on hydration points. So cue ball, cash in some hydration points, my friends. We can take a sip and continue your talk, Mikey. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, my friend.
I needed it actually. But yeah, no.
Thank you,
so
Q.
I mean, I think basically, I think I made my point. I mean, basically, I just think that it could have been brought up. The entire thing about using it for other purposes could have been brought up without having to like take away from like the whole war aspect, because it doesn't make any point. It doesn't serve any purpose. Right. It all it sets up is that, okay, now that the war is over, we're going to transition this. We're going to shut down everything. We're going to transition the robot over to doing this. That could have been going on the whole time.
100%. 100%.
That's not a reason to to change the story anyway.
And just and to me, like listening to you describe how it could have been done, think about how much more invested you would be in that mother-daughter relationship. Like, she's charged with basically conducting the abuse of her mother's brain. Like, that to me is an incredibly compelling story. Like, I can buy into that emotionally, and then all your themes of intellectual property, corporate abuse, consumer, all of those things, they pack so much more of a punch when you're doing stuff like that, because now that's the book. We don't have to worry about trying to do all the action and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's just it's this beautifully contained story about this mother-daughter and watching what AI and corporate America or corporate South Korea is, essentially doing, and what war does to people in the aftermath, and what they do to your memory and what rights you have over your own family members. Like that, I feel like that's what it's really trying to do. But
slight pause. I like how you said that. When you said corporate America, corporate South Korea. I think the film actually almost made itself up, and for some of these reasons, because we're looking at something that we're so used to being on our side, Americans, and we're like, United States and everything, but we're seeing it from a international perspective, and you're like, oh shit, the world works the same as we do, but like different, so on that aspect level, I could think that made up. Question, Derrick, so you can continue here, and I want to go back to this question for you, Mikey, as well. Derrick, you mentioned like, okay, cool, both of you mentioned this, the fact that the relationship between the daughter and mother could have been the main focus on it. The story could have been that, and then that alone could have been built up and little accents of the, once you said, Derrick, just like you said before, little accents of corporate greed, capitalism, everything could have been sprinkled on. At this point in the film, they do the 180, they do the switch, and it seems like they focus on the mother-daughter or daughter role. Two questions for both of you. Derrick, I'm going to start off with you. So at this point, we then realize now the focus is the daughter trying to get the mother out. AI, this is her thing. I made a reference towards producer staff. I said, babe, this reminds me a little bit of iRobot at this point. It seems like at this point, it seems like the main hub being transferred, walking around, super robot with human are duking it out with each other. So it's a runaway game at this moment. And this is the pace of it. And then two, the second, my question is this: one, the direction they're going, do you think it's too fast? Because now they're talking about the mother and daughter trying to get her out. And two, do you think they could have mentioned this mother-daughter thing a lot sooner? Because it felt to me, this whole thing, Yellow discovering this brain, if they had so many years, how the hell did the daughter not notice that she could have been a possible motivation for the mother? So two questions to get this clarity for you. Two, do you think they're going in the proper direction at this moment? Because we understand this is kind of a cluster of a mixture of stuff. So they're going the savior route, save my mom. And two, do you think they could have realized the mother-daughter situation a lot earlier?
So to answer your first question, the sequence is great. Like the action is done very, very well. It's a different movie, but it's still done really well, right? But one thing I noticed when I was watching it is I was like, why do you need AI technology if all of your police are AI robots already? Like what are we trying to develop if we already have it? I don't understand. Like why are we trying to invent soldiers if we literally already have the technology acting as military policemen? Whatever. Okay, fine.
To be fair, those robots were really stupid.
They were very stupid. Yes, 100%. Yes, absolutely. So I don't know if it's too fast, because I don't know. I don't think that it's too. I don't think it's rushed. It just, everything to do with anything related to action or action set pieces or escape plans or anything like that. It just feels out of place. It feels like you've got parts 1 and 2 combined in the same movie, and they're not split. So you got to like piece it together and be like, okay, well, this is part 1, this is part, and you're like making a Quentin Tarantino movie because it's not linear. It's how it feels. Even though the movie is very straightforward and very linear in its narrative, that's how I felt. That's how jarring those two movies are. So I don't know if it was too fast as much as it just it just felt out of place.
I respect that. And then two, do you think the second question was the mother, the understanding of, oh, I could have been the proper motivation for my mother?
Yeah, I do feel like that's also underutilized. But again, it's because you're trying to do too much. And I think if if they would have zeroed in on making that the central part of the film, and really the thing, the catalyst, so to speak, the thing that's driving everything. We could have explored that more, and then it would have allowed us to understand a little bit more, not just about the relationship, but how she understands what she's doing, and how, you could have, instead of showing that boss again, you could just, cut his screen time down by a lot. You can have more scenes with her interviewing her mother and trying to like understand these gaps in these 40 years because she's got access to her mother's brain. Like, you know what I mean? And then you've got this motivation of, as she learns how integral she is to her mother and what is truly driving her to be great, when she discovers it's going to be used for a sex bot, that triggers her to get her mother's brain out. Like that, there's so much more emotional investment when you focus on something. And the film is just too unfocused in order to make that punch. So I do think that it's kind of lazily done. And it doesn't pack the same punch that it should.
Copy. Yeah. Mikey, same question for you, my friend. We're looking at the mother-daughter connection at this point. Remember looking at the fact that the color yellow. Do you think this was a little underutilized, like Derrick said? And then two, the transition going from, this is supposed to be a battle film. This is supposed to be a savior film. Oh my God, wait a minute. It's a melodrama. Holy crap, it's a rescue mission. How do you believe the pace of it's going at this point?
Well, here's the thing about it is that she was essentially in charge of her mother's torture throughout the film. Gotcha. At the cost of military advancement. And for that, I think you should have been able to tell her how guilty she felt throughout the entire movie. That should have been a main thing. Besides the sex bot thing, she should have been guilty. She should have been feeling guilty about having to put her mother through this the entire time, and having to see that every single day. Her mother dying, being tortured, being blown up. It's strange to me that like she never thought about what, like, had any feelings toward it. It almost seemed like she was very cold towards the robot. And I feel like for her to be that cold, there had to have been some sort of trauma to have done that. And when you hear when you find out her backstory, there really wasn't. Her mother left to take care of, like, to fight in the war, so she'd have money to take care of her because she was sick and she was dying. And she never came back. And I guess she felt maybe guilty about that her mother died. But that's still your mother. Like you have an opportunity to talk to your mother there. And instead she just watches her get tortured and blown up and just beaten up the whole time. I feel like at some point, like, there's another story here. There's a story of where she sold her soul to corporate whatever, and she just went along with the script, with the plan, with whatever they were going to do. And there should have been a little bit more about like why she felt guilty. I mean, you can tell that she does. And then towards the end, when she wants to free her mother, I mean, the whole thing about it, like, well, she sees basically what happens is that one of the workers, who's like a fanboy of her mom, has a copy of the mom in his room, and he's experimenting on it as a sex bot, and apparently it was ordered by the company to do that.
I did that time too.
I know. Like he didn't want to. Come on. and so you're like, that pushes her over the edge. That shouldn't have been the reason. I mean, yes, okay, for this movie, that works, but that's lazy. That's not. That, no, 100%. To that point. Like there's if you're gonna go heavy on the mother-daughter drama, on the drama about loss and grief and everything like that, and how to deal with it, then go on that. But to arbitrarily throw this in there like that is kind of like, we didn't know how to do this. We'll just throw this in there like that. Like, well, no, there was a way you could have done this. Laid this.
And I genuinely love the way that you framed that, because the way that you're describing it and how, she's watching this torture, and maybe she did sell her soul to corporate America. And then as she's watching this, and as it gets worse and worse, and as she starts discovering that she was the catalyst for everything that her mother did, and there's that trauma and there's that bonding, you literally just described a redemption arc that I'm bought into. I was like, dude, just do that. Like,
now there's a question though on that same note.
Now.
A very, very important question for both of you, Mikey. I want to start off with you on this one. in regards to talking about her being her mother's torture, and Derrick, you brought this up you as well, being the fact that she was constantly there observing this program. Um, she as a kid, she had a cancer mass inside her lung, and essentially it comes back, right? So at this point in the film we're at right now, we understand that she is escaping. We understand that she is this new formed ionized robot, that hypothetically speaking the company was going in that direction, the military direction in the first place, and using the older direction as a sex robot. So you have this, this clusterfuck of what the hell I didn't expect was going on. Do you, Mikey, start off with you, and then Derrick, I want you to follow up on this as well, my friend. Do you think that towards the end, her getting shot and her already dying and already knowing that she has 3 weeks to live is her piece of making the fact that she was her mother's torturer, the fact that she's dying now? Do you think this is a sense of justice, getting her mother out of there and her just taking producer Steph, may I have a battery to charge this, please? Do you think her death is just some kind of justification poetically done in the film on purpose? Or Mikey, what's your opinion of that, my friend?
So here's the thing. I think
Thank you so
problem.
much.
This goes into the problem of the writing of the movie. Like, I don't know if that's the reason why that she does this, because when she finds out the cancer's back and she's gonna die, and she has the option of like, well, I could put my brain into like, another body and stuff like that, and you can do A package, B package, C package. Like, that's a choice for her. But how does that match up with what the choices she's making for her mother? It's like, okay, is she feeling guilt? Is she feeling, she doesn't feel like, she doesn't make the choice basically for herself. She decides that she's not gonna pick an A, B, or C package or whatever, put her brain in whatever. But she does have the choice to save her mother. And at this point of the movie, it's kind of like, well, I think she knows she's dying. That's the only thing she can do. Maybe the guilt then is what motivates her to do that. But at the same time, it's like, you don't really understand her motivations the whole time of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, the whole time you're just kind of like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this to your mother? Her mother isn't completely gone. Her mother is there. She's just in a coma. I mean, her body is pretty much destroyed, but she exists, but she's just in a coma. And
that's an excellent point. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Right. So like, she could pull the plug, give her mother, her actual mother, not an AI mother, her actual mother, freedom, and like, and she could do that. She's the last living relative. She could do that, but she chooses to free an AI copy of her mother's brain. That's what she chooses to do. She doesn't free her mother. She frees that. So you're wondering. So the whole time I'm wondering, like, what exactly are her motivations? What does she consider to be the true mom? Is the brain? Is that the one that showed, the military brain that showed like there was some essence of love for her? Is that what she considers to be her true mom? Or her mom is in a coma, like that she just visited. So, and I think that's a problem with the writing. You never really understand her motivations. You understand basically she's dying. She has a choice to make. She chooses not to make the choice for herself, but she makes the choice for her mother, for what she believes is her mother. Why does she choose that robot, that AI, as her mother?
That's fascinating. Derrick, same with you, my friend. So when we're in the situation here, we're coming towards the end, obviously. And you brought up an excellent point at this, where's the story going? What is her true motivation point here? She could have done this a long time ago. She's her mother's torturer. That being said, it's obvious they try to make the cancer situation come back, and it's obviously her death sentence now. Do you think, in your opinion, in the writing, do you think it was poetic justice of her finally, taking her last breath, considering the fact that she's been looking at her mother, this is her chance to take it? What is your outlooks on this, my friend?
Well, two things. One, I want to watch the movie that Mikey's talking about, because that seems like a much better movie. Mikey's over here fixing this movie in so many ways. Well, I was like, yes, those are the things that I want. Yes, make that happen. But to answer the question directly, I actually don't. I don't think it's poetic justice in any way. I think it also demonstrates just kind of how, I don't want to say lazy, but that's kind of the only word I can think of, just how lazy the writing is and how underdeveloped all of these themes are, because I'm sure that's what they wanted to do, but really all it is to just
I'm
trigger
sure
the
that's what they
yellow.
wanted to do.
Right. All it does is trigger the yellow part in her brain. Mm-hmm. That's it. In the AI. That's the only reason it exists, so that she can go, power level 9,000 and have a Batman Begins fight on a train. Like that's it. Like that's the only reason this whole cancer thing comes up, so
that's why it looks so familiar. It was
right. Yeah. I thought about it the whole time. I was like, oh yeah,
that's brilliant. It looks familiar to me. I was like, why does this look familiar?
Yeah, even down to them like actually not killing him. Like they just let the train fall with it. Anyways, but yeah, that's it, because all of those other things that should be there are so underdeveloped and confusing and not really written well, and not really, they don't really dive into it. It only exists to trigger her kind of level up so that she can go toe to toe with this other AI bot, and you can have an AI battle. That's the only reason it exists, and it's unfortunate because, again, the way that Mikey's describing it and how it should happen, there should be a really strong point. There should be a redemption moment. There should be a sacrifice, and then it makes it hit harder. So yeah.
Okay, I like that. Okay. Okay, fantastic. All right, guys. Now we're coming to the portion of the show where we talk about our popcorn bucket ratings here. I understand we went really in depth with them, and from what I'm understanding, I think it sounds like we're pretty firm, but I'm gonna have to ask this anyway. Mikey, you're rating at a 3 out of 5 popcorn buckets. Is it gonna stay the same, or is it gonna change? And if it's gonna change, why?
It's gonna stay the same. I think middle of the road. I enjoyed parts of the movie. The beginning, the end, the separate movie that we got in the middle there. I could enjoy it on a separate level. Like that was I mean, if anything, I would change it to give like maybe the action movie maybe was 3.5, and then the drama was a 3 right there.
Okay.
But I mean, if it's just one movie, it stays a 3, and it doesn't change for me.
Cool. All right, Derrick, my friend, same for you. Is it stay 3 out of 5?
I kind of want to just knock it down to a 2.5, but
hey, if you have to, go ahead. It's say 3 why.
I do agree with Mikey, because I think that there is a ton of potential here. There are 2 good movies here. They just should exist separately and not together. Because all of the action looks great. Like it has really, really good visual effects. And it's really good. And then all of the actors, the woman who unfortunately passed away before the film showed up, or before the film came out, even though we don't understand her motivations, there's something about her where she has a lot of charisma without saying anything. Like, and I think part of the frustration is the script and the writing in this movie that is kind of crammed here in the middle doesn't really give her what she can do. You can see it. And so I think I kind of want to leave the rating out of hope that there was a better movie. Like it does exist, and it exists here. They just need to flesh some of those things out a little bit more. So I'm going to stick with the 3 though. I think that's right. A little middle of the road rating I think is right.
Sounds good. I'm gonna be a little different, guys. I'm gonna go up from a 3 to a 3.5. The only reason, me personally, I should have mentioned this a little bit more. I watch Korean drama. I do that quite often. So the storyline and the development here kind of reflects what they kind of do on the national level on television in the first place. Only reason why I'm going to go up a 0.5 a little bit on there, because when it comes to drama, it's interesting. I watch a special forces movie. A special forces show. I can't remember the name of it too much, but years ago, and it was interesting because these guys were decked out in camo and rifles and everything, and they talk about special weapon tactics, and then they have a 30-minute conversation about a girlfriend they had an issue with, and it's the craziest thing. So there are some reflections on that I see that's in here in a sense too as well. The fact that you guys mentioned there's multiple movies in one, I really didn't think about that, and I have to agree with you on that. It seems to be multiple movies. The lead actress that was here, R.I.P., she's fantastic. They called her Miss Hollywood of Korea. Fantastic. You could see there's a lot of motion there. Just the ability and her action, her range was huge and wide. I agree with both of you. I don't think the acting was a problem. It was the fact that when it was inserted, or it was the fact that someone edited it really funky wise and put all the parts really off place and centered. But honestly, you guys hit the nail on the head. I believe The cast was fantastic. Psychotic Robot himself was fantastic. But the thing is that was he needed at this point? Could have been used as a villain at a different point. Could he be in Jung-Hee 2? This is really generic, not to say what you're going to say, but in that concept. That being said, let's go ahead and talk about oh shoot, fantastic. So she is the only Korean actress to win an award. The first Korean actress, can I read that bottom, please? To win an award outside of an acting award outside of Korea. So the fact that she had that much, what I'd say success behind her and backed by, a country and fan base helped a lot. But like I said, you could see her emotion in there. And yet the problem was it seemed with the writing per se. That being said, Mikey, where can we find you on any social medias, my friend?
You can find me on Instagram mostly under GripC47. I also have a YouTube page, 3 of AK, which is like a show that me and my friends did back in the day, and that's about it. Yeah, I'm always on Instagram mostly, and I do a lot of Korean concerts and K-pop stuff, and
love K-pop.
Post about that. Yeah, absolutely. So I always have that.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Right on. Thank you. Awesome. Derrick, my friend, where can we find you on your social medias?
Yeah, so you guys can find me on Twitter at DRock Comedy. That's DROK Comedy. You can find me on Facebook. Just look me up, Derrick Murray, full name. You can also find me on Letterboxd. I do all my... I want to say it's Derrick Murray 83. It might be D Murray 83. I don't remember. Just search me. You'll find me. But you can always check out all of my movie reviews on nerdbot.com. Currently going through Sundance screenings, so I'll have a bunch of those out for you guys next week. And yeah, hopefully if I remember half the movies I watched, but if you want to hear little short reviews, just follow me on Twitter and follow me on Letterboxd, because I'm trying to keep track so that when I want to go back and write full reviews, I can.
Heck yeah. Well, guys, you can find me on Facebook at Alejandro M. Cowie, on Instagram on my entertainment account on IAMCOWIE. I am Cowie. It's where I do reels, comedic concepts, and so forth. Or my nerdy collector account at Cowie Collector. That's also at Instagram. Thank you guys, ladies and gentlemen, witches and wizards, for joining us. Thank you, Mikey and Derrick, for just being here with us. As usual, Mikey, first time to meet you. I'd love to have you on the show more. Derrick, you just OG, kicking and screaming. Fantastic. Please continue to join us. We'd love it. If everyone can join us in the next show for Nom Watch Review is going to be the 27. It's going to actually be Basic Binges. Host on that one's going to be Jefferson Carvey, with guests being Michael Flores and Ren, where they actually discuss episodes 3 and 4 of Junji into Maniac. Junji Ito. I'm sorry, I read that Junji Ito, not into. I apologize. Let me correct myself then. But once again, thank you folks for joining us in the show. We always appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful day. Love, peace, chicken grease. Never drop, never surrender. Bye.